short strike, and I wonder if because of the color of it, like because it's almost like a transparent bait, right? If they can hear it because it's got the big knocker in it. Color. Good one. Knew it. That's a good one. Come on, baby. All right. Come on. Good fish. So it's a color issue, right? So the crankbait I had on was a little too transparent, and they was short striking it. That's a good one. They was short striking it, but they wasn't committing because they could hear it, but they couldn't see it. So this is my second one on it. So what I have is a black label, right? It's silent, but the color I think is what's doing it. So this is all balsa wood, so it floats rapidly. And the way I fish this is kind of unorthodox of how a lot of people fish crankbait. So a lot of people, they burn down the side of the bank, they throw at an angle, which is all great stuff, right? But here on like river swings, and you know, I'm here today, I'm on the Calcasieu, you know, or Sabine, even when you're at the lake, right, any lake, and you have structure that stands out, I'll pitch this crankbait just like I would my Texas rig. I would pitch it straight up against a tree, and I'll reel it back in straight to my boat. And while I'm retrieving, you'll see my rod. I'm constantly twitching it or jerking it like a jerk bait or whatever. So, especially with the silent, it's all about visual aspect, right? So, don't have no rattle, so when I twitch it like this, you can still hear the hooks, but it's subtle, it's quiet, it's just enough, right? So what I figured I need to do is mash the hatch and just slow wind it and twitch that lure slowly too, and you'll feel them hit it. But don't be scared to pitch inside of all them cypress knees or willow trees or cypress trees, whatever kind of tree you have, shrub trees. Pitch into it and let that crankbait deflect. If it has a natural deflection off of it, your bite percentage will go way up instead of just reeling it and twitching it and things like that, right? Because when it hits that natural object in the water, it makes a certain sound, it does a certain thing, and those fish react to that instead of just throwing that thing out and cranking it in. My favorite fishing is square billing. I like throwing big plugs. I like throwing 25 foot, you know, your 8XDs, 6XDs, 10XDs, your DTs, all those. I like throwing those, but this square bill fishing is, to me, by far none the best. You ask everybody that knows me, I'm always gonna have a square bill or two tied onto my boat because it's more of a natural reaction. When them something swims by that fish, whether they're hungry or whether they just don't want it there, and they get pissed, they will hit it to either eat it or just to kill it. So play around with it. Have a silent and one with a rattle, both tied on. Go pitch it near trees and watch your percentage go way up, right? So what happens is a lot of these fish, right? Fish feed up, so they're pushing all this shad and all this bait fish towards these little flats, right? So where we're sitting at right now, and plus it's in the shade, right? So your morning bite lasts a little longer, but the river swing comes here and it bangs on that other bank, so the other bank's gonna be deeper. So all that sediment is piled in right here where I'm fishing. So I'm only sitting in 2.5 foot of water. So I don't want my crankbait to necessarily drag the bottom the whole way. So I slow roll it, but in doing that, I am just pitching it close and reeling it back to me at a slow pace. That way it don't necessarily drag the bottom. Now I'll pause it, start it, twitch it, and do all those things. There he is, right at the boat. See? He followed that crankbait with me slow rolling it, twitching it, pausing it, all those things. It's little, but it proves my point that they'll follow it. They're in all this cover and they're pushing all this bait fish up. So keep your bait in the water all the way to your boat. So when that crankbait starts coming up, right? When it starts coming, it comes up real steep. And that action too can cause a lot of the fish to strike it, the ones that follow it, right? So you'll have a lot of followers. And then when that crankbait decides to make that vertical lift, just that action in itself will cause that fish to strike that crankbait while you're fishing. So another thing when you're fishing with a crankbait is what we don't want to do is set the hook like we're fishing with a Texas rig or anything like that, right? The best way I can explain it is when you feel that fish hit it, right? And you'll understand what I mean when he hits it. It's like you can feel him grab onto it. It's real heavy. So you'll see me come this way, but it may look like it, but I'm not. I'm not actually setting my hook. What I'm doing is I'm loading into that fish. So as this thing is swimming, right, and that fish grabs it, I got treble hook. So he will grab it and swim, and my bait is moving. So by that force, the hook's catching. And when you load into it, it cinches those hooks into that fish's mouth. If you jerk a crankbait, if you rear back and you jerk with a crankbait, either you're gonna break off a lot or you're gonna miss a lot of fish because this is moving and your fish is moving. So when he grabs it and you go to set the hook, you're just gonna rip it out. You're just gonna rip it out of his mouth instead of letting your rod load. And another thing is you want your rod is probably, and I'm not gonna say your reel ain't important, but your reel ain't so much that important. You can control your speed according to how the fish is, but I would recommend like a 6/8 or a low 7 gear ratio reel, and you can speed it up or slow it down as needed, but your rod is the utmost importance whenever you're crankbait fishing, because you have to have something with a bend, right? A parabolic bend. You hear them pros talk about it, right? So what happens when a fish grabs it, right, and it loads, you see how much that rod bends? It gives. So that way that crankbait or that hard bait, you know, that moving bait does not rip out of his mouth. That rod actually allows that pole to load on that fish, so it's easier on a hook set. So try that, get back with me, let me know if it's improved your crankbait fishing. And one other thing, I am throwing 12 pound. The lighter line helps this little square bill get down just a little bit more, and it has a little bit more stronger action to it. So leave me a comment, a like, share this post with your friends, and there's going to be a lot more to come. Y'all stay tuned.